Hello and welcome to the second episode of the Super Sentai Power Hour. I'm Trevor.
And for a Ranger X, once again, he doesn't have a cool name.
I will figure out a name for myself at some point.
Trevor, of course.
Maybe. Maybe not. Alright. Anyway, so last time we talked about Jew Ranger and MMPR. This week we are talking about the canceled 11th season, Hexagon. Now,
Which is what happened, which ended up becoming Ninja Storm.
yeah. So, for those who don't know, the basics of Hexagon are it was going to be. Now, if I'm wrong, you let me know because you know a lot more about this than I do. From what I know, Hexagon was going to be some type of organization set up by Tommy.
Well, what happened was supposedly what it was like after the events of Forever Red, all the Red Rangers, all the leaders are going to unite to form their own government. That's what. Because if I remember correctly, there's an episode of Wild Force with the Time Force team up. West says there are other Rangers out there fighting for the same cause, so that kind of sets up that all these teams are going to unite. And see, it starts. My theory is Hexagon is what Lightspeed Rescue would evolve into, because with Lightspeed, it introduced the idea that monsters, demons, and aliens are a common threat now, so the government is going to now militarize the morphing grid and create their own Power Rangers, and that's where Lightspeed comes in, and this is now the Rangers themselves going to the government to form their own Hexagon, which is their version of the Pentagon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good idea. It's really sad that it never happened because Forever Red was one of the most popular episodes of all time. And
Debatingly, I would consider it my all-time favorite episode.
Yeah. I mean, they tried to do something similar again with the last episode of Super Mega Force, but we all know how that went.
The one from Super Ninja Steel was a big improvement, and
yeah, and
Japan, In Japan, the season, Lupin Ranger versus Patchin Ranger loosely adapts the unused idea of Hexagon.
Speaking of Lupin Ranger, I actually recently started watching that season. It's pretty good. The theme song is terrible, but the series itself is pretty good.
Team Patchin.
The Kaito Sentai Lupin Ranger versus Keisatsu Sentai Pat Ranger.
I always imagine us having roommates and they ask us what we're watching. Lupin set us not wanting to sound pretentious. Japanese superhero people in spandex fighting kaiju. Godzilla.
We won't go too much into Lupin Ranger because I don't think you've seen it, have you?
I've seen the first episode, but I just know that it's a similar. It loosely adapts the idea of
the
government rangers.
It does because the Pat Rangers are cops,
and Lupin Rangers are
they're thieves.
Not. I wouldn't call them evil, but they're just self-operating.
They're thieves.
I haven't gotten too far, so
yeah, they call themselves the Phantom Thieves. They're basically going after this Lupin collection passed down through generations to save or revive lost loved ones.
Okay.
And the Pat Rangers, they don't really want the Lupin collection, but they end up having parts of it to use against fighting the main baddies of the series, the Ganglers.
The Lupin, is that their collectible gimmick of the season? Is that what the toy line was focused on? Because I haven't really paid much attention to.
Not really. The Lupin collection is a whole bunch of artifacts The what they use for their morphers, they're called VS changers.
Because they're like guns, right?
Yeah, they're guns. So if this was brought to the states, I don't know how it would work.
Well, we use guns here for Dino Charge, and I think Ninja Steel had the Star Shuriken thing, so we're getting to the point where weapon morphers are a thing.
Yeah, but so it is a similar idea to what Hexagon would have been, but it's different because I feel like Hexagon would have acted more like, as you said, the Pentagon.
Yeah, because Tommy was going to be like the Nick Fury of their universe, and he becomes like a major political figure.
Which again makes sense. Oh, although I feel like if you're going to have a main leader, uh, as I said in the first episode, my opinion of Tommy is he's a great leader, but I think Jason is probably the one people point to as a
Definitely.
leader of leaders.
Well, supposedly the plot was Tommy is pro government rangers and Jason leads what would become the Thunder Rangers as like their own independent vigilante rangers, and it's very similar. Actually, it predates it, but Marvel did the comic event Civil War, which was like about the government wanting to register superheroes and their or superheroes war against it. It's basically that same idea of Tommy being pro government and Jason being independent.
Yeah, I mean, I never, I've I've always wanted to get into comics, but I own a whole bunch of comics, but because my mom used to work for Marvel, but um, I
Same with
never really
comics,
read.
it's hard to get into it unless you have a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of good things about the recent Power Ranger comics.
Oh yeah, Shattered Grid makes up for all the stuff the Neo Saban era did wrong.
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, they should redo Hexagon in the comics.
Like I said, Lupin Ranger versus Pattern Ranger, that's a perfect opportunity to bring Hexagon here in Power Rangers.
It really would, because you could set up the Pata Rangers as Tommy's Hexagon and the Lupin Rangers as Jason's Anti Rangers or whatever.
What I could really see happening is Lupin Ranger would take the same idea, but instead of Hexagon, it's SPD.
Yeah,
Because Power Rangers SPD takes place in 2025, and we're getting close to that year. So when we reach that year, we're going to have to acknowledge the SPD Rangers, which the comics did a little bit with the Soul Dragon comic, where Tommy's son is now the SPD Green Ranger.
yeah. So eventually we'll get there. Hopefully, Lupin Ranger, Pat Ranger comes to the states after the Ryu Soldier adaptation.
I personally think it's too soon to do another dinosaur season because it feels like Dino Charge was too recent, but it's more of a night. Their powers are more night based than dinosaur based, and personally, I would just rename the dinosaurs to dragons, and it'll be perfectly fine.
It could work, but honestly, um, I think Beast Morphers is doing well.
I really like the Beast Morphers, and we're going to be getting the Dino team up in that.
Yeah, because the original Dino team up for the Sentai version was Koryuger, Jew Ranger, and Go Busters.
And all
So
the
we've got all three now.
my theory is why we didn't adapt it when we had Dino Charge was because we didn't have the Go Busters adapted yet. So that's why they waited.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, but we're this is another thing of America becoming a little effed up because Go Busters came before Koryuger.
Well, the reason why they skipped Go Busters is okay. Um, have you ever had a time where you say Go Buster but accidentally say Ghost Buster?
It's happened.
Well, the reason why we didn't get Go Busters is because supposedly the toys didn't sell well in Japan, and that's why they skipped straight to Dino Charge.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate. I thought Go Busters was really a really good series.
I, my only thing about Go Busters is it's underwhelming compared to the fact that the season before was Go Kaiger. But Go Busters, I think, is a really good standalone season.
Yeah, if you're just getting into Sentai, Go Busters is a good starting point.
It's kind of inspired by RPM a little bit.
Yeah, I can see that. But anyway, back to Hexagon. Um, actually, speaking of Go Busters, that's that's another Hexagon inspired thing. I feel like because the Go Busters were some type of secret organization, weren't they?
Yeah, they're rangers funded by our tax money.
Pretty much. So
where we should be going to.
That's another similarity right there. So the idea is out there. Hasbro needs to just punch themselves in the gut and do it.
Hasbro could be doing a lot of things. Like, first off, keep the show, but have adapt the comics into like an animated series or something because Hasbro has their Transformers and they basically take what they do with Transformers and put it with Power Rangers. In fact, maybe Power Rangers and Transformers could be in their own shared universe, like with Transformers and G.I. Joe.
That's a thing.
Oh yeah, G.I. Joe and Transformers have always been in like a coexisted world.
Okay, you learn something new every day. That's
don't really see it in the movies and the cartoons because it's always like exclusively in the comics, so it's easy to miss.
Yeah, as I said, I'm not. I want to get into the comics, but with so much to watch, I don't have time.
There's so many comics out there that the only thing I'm following right now is Venom.
Yeah. Roxy, do you need to go out? I'll be right back. Roxy is just being weird.
So I was looking at the Wikipedia. Supposedly Tommy was going to become like a villain towards the end of the season. And he's going to be the green, and he was going to get the green samurai ranger suit. Which, if you look at this ranger, it's obvious that they wanted Tommy to wear that armor.
Yeah, it is kind of a similar setup to the original Green Ranger.
And something interesting about Beast Morphers is I have a theory. If you're watching this in 2021, then I could be completely off, but I have a theory that Jason is the founder of Grid Battle Force, which is like a government organization that's like converting the morphing grid into an energy source.
Interesting. So,
so we want to pull up the Wikipedia and just talk about like what catches our attention about the season.
Yeah. So quoting from the Ranger Wiki itself, the unused Hexagon plan, as it has come to be called, revolved around the idea of an umbrella organization unifying most of the various Power Ranger teams that have been seen over the years. The name Hexagon came from the idea that the base of operations for the season's Power Rangers would be a giant building like the Pentagon, except with 6 sides to symbolize the number of Power Rangers on most teams. It was conceived as a much larger version of Zordon's command center, except with its location and purpose known to the public. An impregnable fortress staffed by hundreds, if not thousands, and far too well defended for any of the villains of the Power Rangers universe to try attacking. And going further into the article, in the original script for Forever Red, the idea was that Tommy was in retirement from being a Ranger, and Andros pulled him back for one more battle. As the episode evolved, and Jason David Frank brought his usual vitality to the role, as well as, this time, an unexpected aura of gravitas, the line about Tommy being in retirement, while filmed, was ultimately cut from the episode, leaving his status in Forever Red to the viewer more mysterious and ambiguous. Central to the Hexagon plan was the idea of a veteran hero turned commander in charge of a super union of superheroes. The idea of the season has Genesis in Reinforcements from the Future Part 1, when West tells Cole there are other Rangers out there all fighting for a common goal, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I think I brought that one up.
Matured in Forever Red when linkages not seen in the show were hinted at, Carter knowing TJ, Andros knowing about Jason, etc., and really began to become clearer watching Tommy again.
That's Tommy, the original Zeo Red Ranger. That guy's a legend.
Pretty much.
And I have the villain section up. Apparently they were going to bring back Lokor, who was like that floating evil head from like Doomsday from Mighty Morphin. And also the Prince Gasket and Archerina from the Machine Empire were going to be in it, which they were going to use the Hurricane monsters of the day. It was going to be like each one-off monster. It was going to be, if they were like cybernetic and robot looking, they were going to be used for Machine Empire, and if they were organic and creature like, they were going to be used for Lokor and Scorpina. Which Scorpina, that's one of my favorite monsters. Scorpina is one of my favorite villains of Power Rangers, so that would have been awesome to see her back.
Yeah, Scorpina, I feel like, is an underrated monster.
Well, I actually have a friend who does an awesome Scorpina costume, which is, I think she's the only person I've seen who's ever cosplayed Scorpina.
You'll have to show me that at some point.
Okay, I'm just going to shamelessly advertise. Check out Ranger Station. If the world goes back to normal, July 8th, Philadelphia, Power Ranger Convention. I'm friends with the people running it.
Huh. Awesome. Yeah, hopefully the world comes back to normal by then, and we'll be able to have that event.
We could do an entire topic about this, but not a political channel.
Yeah. So, we didn't talk about this last time, but obviously, we were planning on doing this together in the same room with traditional microphones and everything. But coronavirus, so we are in our own houses over
the world.
The Skypes
kind of doesn't want this The world just kind of doesn't want this podcast to be professional looking, but a lot of people do podcasts like this.
Yeah, and we will try to up our quality as as time goes on with better equipment as we get more popular, if we get more popular, which I would think we would.
We're only on episode 2, and most podcasts start out nothing.
Yeah. So, anyway, I
Back
think I
to
think
the villains. Oh, sorry. Back to the villains. The like I said earlier, the Thunder Rangers. They were going to be Jason's team, and it doesn't look like they were going to be evil like we got in the actual series. It's more just like they resist against the government.
yeah. So they're the Captain America, the Tommy's Iron Man.
That's the perfect way to summarize this unused concept.
Yeah, I mean, I the closest thing I can really compare it to is the recent Civil War movie.
Close enough to the comic. It's the same general idea.
I mean, I've as I said, I never read the comics, but I know the Civil War era is pretty pretty popular. So
And then around the time of the movie, there was the second Marvel Civil War. So it was actually successful because back in the, I don't think Captain America was really popular anymore, and that's kind of like what brought the character back when they first published the Civil War series.
yeah, and as we said and alluded to, Hexagon is pretty much Power Rangers Civil War. So it it's parallels all around.
And also, I'm looking at the website. Supposedly, the Blue Thunder, the Navy Thunder Ranger, he was going to be turned into a woman in America, like have a female actress play the Thunder Navy Ranger. So
That could have worked.
I think it's because there was only like one female ranger here in Ninja Storm, and I also saw something there was going to a speculation that there was going to be a second Yellow Ranger, but it's going to be more like a brown, dark yellow.
Hmm. Wonder how that would have worked.
Because that would have been like the Titanium Ranger, like the original US creation.
Yeah. So this may be weird to say, but I feel like Hexagon. How do I say this? The whole idea of Hexagon is. How am I wording this? I don't know. I just have this thought that Hexagon really could have worked. So why they didn't go through with it is beyond me.
What happened was Wild Force midway through season Disney bought out Power Rangers for that short period of time. So they wanted to wrap up Wild Force as like the final shared universe season, make Ninja Storm like its own like self-contained series that anyone could just start with, rather than like this big finale season that will wrap up all the plot points over the years. But Dino Thunder completely rejected this and made it part of the main universe.
Yeah. What one one day we'll get into Dino Thunder. It's one of my favorite Disney era seasons.
It's a better anniversary season than Megaforce could ever have been.
Yeah.
Ironic because
You
it wasn't
see,
even an anniversary
Megaforce.
season.
It's the original Mega. This is just me, and I posted a comment on someone's post in a Ranger group that I'm on. I don't know which one, but someone was saying how about Super Mega Force being bad and everything, and I'm just like the Mega Force Super Mega Force series. It had a lot going for it. They just effed up so bad.
My thing is, it's when they don't focus on like the story and the character drama. That's when we don't really. It's one of those seasons that was more focused on like the action and the fight scenes rather than like characters. like how Dino Charge really improved.
Yeah, I mean, I really Super Mega Force really relied on the legendary Rangers coming back, and the it kind of fell on its face. I feel like,
That's an understatement. Even the actors themselves complained about it.
yeah, I can see that. But anyway, we'll dedicate an entire episode to the disaster that was Megaforce and Super Megaforce. So, and actually, to tie that in, they could have, if they were smart, they could have alluded to Hexagon and Super Megaforce with
That's,
everyone coming
that's
back.
even how Tommy was able to unite all of them.
If only they were smart.
When Megaforce first premiered, I always kind of had a theory that Gosei, the big morpher head, I always had a theory that that was like just like a computer that Tommy was talking out of, and Tommy was doing everything behind the scenes.
It's possible, but doesn't Gosei mention that he's like a disciple of Zordon or something?
My mentor Zordon told me to emerge when the Earth is under great danger, but I haven't done it every time Villain appears throughout the last 20 years. I just waited till the anniversary season where I can acknowledge Zordon for nostalgia reasons.
Exactly. And he's never mentioned again.
I'm, I have to acknowledge this. Chris Chan, we all know who he is, unfortunately, but he once wrote a song about Zordon.
Ugh, I'm gonna end up looking that up, and it's going to kill me.
It, well, he never sung it. He just wrote it, but an actual like quality singer did a cover of it, and it actually sounds awesome. But if it was Chris Chan singing it, it would be just like that time where he sung the Ghostbuster theme.
Yeah, let's move away from that. So, what Hexagon could have been? Hexagon could have been so much.
I I don't know where I saw it, but supposedly the Phantom Ranger was going to show up. Which to this day, I think the Phantom Ranger is Billy, the original Blue Ranger.
Yeah, I mean that's an ongoing theory, and
I
it
mean, Shattered, it kind of like ruined it with having both of them in the same panel at times, but I like to think of it as maybe Phantom Ranger is Billy from another timeline.
I mean it really makes sense the way they framed things up in the original show.
Because how else was he able to have Artillatron, which conveniently had Zords that were compatible with the Zords the Rangers already had?
Pretty much. I mean, the whole the whole Billy Phantom Ranger thing. It's who the hell knows, really. I tend to agree with you that Billy is the Phantom Ranger, but it's really up in the air.
And something interesting I saw, supposedly they were going to bring back Joel, the green Lightspeed Ranger, and he was going to fly the Zord that would eventually be given to the Green Ninja Storm Ranger because his Zord in Lightspeed was like a helicopter plane thing, and flying airplanes was a big part of his character, so they were going to bring him back as like Lightspeed representation.
That would have been nice. We Joel was Joel was a good Green Ranger. He fit the bill really nice.
The first time seeing it, I thought he was the Green Lost Galaxy Ranger returning, but which is pretty messed up when you really think of the reasons why I did.
Uh, I mean, going back to Forever Red, that was an episode that did really well, brought a lot of plot lines together, and alluded to a lot. So,
What's your like? Did you ever did you ever watch Beetleborgs as a kid, or was that something you discovered when you were a little older?
I knew of Beetleborgs when I was a kid. I didn't know what the hell it was.
Well, I had I remember. I don't know if I saw Beetleborgs first or Forever Red first, but we all know the costumes got reused. So
Oh yeah, that.
I always kind of had a theory that maybe Beetleborgs exist in the Ranger universe, and after they were phased out, somehow the Machine Empire got templates to their armor and constructed the Machine Empire generals off of them.
I need to watch Beetleborgs.
It, it, I I've never seen the Japanese version, but they're like drastically different.
I would assume.
Because apparently, I don't know if this is true, but apparently the reason why they had like the Batman 66 effects in Beetleborgs is because supposedly it was more violent compared to Power Rangers, which for the time Power Rangers got like so many parent complaints that I can't imagine.
Oh
And
yeah,
hearing out, I can't imagine how much worse Beetleborgs would have been if they got.
yeah. That would have been bad.
But for Beetleborgs, I would say watch the first episode, but then skip straight to the Shadowborg saga, because that's when I think the show got good.
I'll probably end up watching the whole thing because I can't stand skipping around.
It, most of the episodes are self-contained, so just expected a lot of filler.
That's fine by me. As long as it doesn't get too crappy, I'll be fine. But
As,
eh,
as long as you can stand child actors, it's watchable.
yeah, I would assume I'll have to find it somewhere. It was on Netflix, wasn't it?
That's where I watched most of it because I had the Shadowborg VHS tape as a young child. Broke it because VHS tapes they break. Then I finally rewatched it back in around the time Megaforce was first airing. I finally got around to binge watching all of Beetleborgs, and I could say the first season was rough because they didn't know what they wanted to do, but after, it became more serialized around the time Shadowborg and the White Blaster appeared.
Alrighty then.
The interesting thing about Beetleborgs is the only reason it had two seasons is at the time the ratings for it was even better than Power Rangers, but they had to cancel it because they ran out of Metal Hero other footage. So what what they should have done was adapt like another maybe like unite the Beetleborgs and the VR Troopers to do another Metal Hero OTV series.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Now, if I go
Metal
back to
Hero is
the
another
if I go
video
back to the
on.
article, I can't expand that, can I? No. Oh well. Uh, Here we go. Going back to what you were saying about the Hurricaneger stuff. Again, quoting from the Ranger Wiki article. The team for the season would consist of the three basic Hurricaners, red, blue, and yellow, young recruits to the Hexagon, and the organization's active duty superheroes. These powers, obviously ninja based, would likely be derived from Ninjor from Mighty Morphin Season 3.
Who
One of the many
originally created the power coins.
yeah, one of the many returning characters who would contribute to the season's story. Tommy would send these three Rangers away on missions in response to attacks by the villains. Instead of just one central city where all the fighting would take place, each episode's battle could take place in various locations around the Power Rangers universe. The three Rangers would travel around in the Hexagon Special Stealth Chopper, piloted by Joel, a planned recurring character. It would be implied that the other Ranger teams were operating under the command of the Hexagon, and there would be occasional cameos by other Rangers as their heroes would travel to respond to threats across the Power Rangers universe. Silver Hills, Angel Grove, Mariner Bay, Turtle Cove, and even possibly Aquitar, Miranoi, and KO-35 would all be seen on a regular basis.
Well, they were all filmed around the same area, and I know people who have been to the locations.
The fact that they all happen to look like LA would help a lot with filming.
Yep.
Tommy, with his network of Ranger connections, made him essentially the new Zordon, and most Ranger teams could be called upon by him. And on to the villains. The villains for the season would be various and not unified, and would even include some returning villains. So, as you alluded to previously, Prince Gasket, Archerina, Scorpina, and Lokar were among the unresolved villains from previous seasons that Amit hoped to provide some resolution during the season. The Hurricaner villains were to be used in the show as representing different villain factions, and the monsters of the day that the Power Rangers would fight each episode wouldn't always be from the same group. For example, the robotic monsters of the day might be the Machine Empire minions of Prince Gasket, while a more organic monster might be a minion of Scorpina, who had become a much more fleshed out character than before, or one of the new Hurricaner villain factions. And then it goes into the Beetle Hurricaners or the Thunder Rangers. They were to be used as a rogue group of Power Rangers that operated outside Hexagon network of superhero teams. They were to be less in the traditional goody two-shoes mold of Rangers and have more of a rebellious, anti-authoritarian attitude to them. So basically, as we were saying, Civil War.
They're the Captain America Rangers.
So, pretty much just as you were saying, and I find that really interesting. That different villains could be at different factions, and the original Hurricaner based Rangers, the recruits, as it were, would fight them, and eventually maybe fight Prince Gasket himself or something.
See, the thing I really like about this is my problem with Power Rangers and most Sentai and Kamen Rider shows is why is it just one villain faction every year? Is it just like all evil people just take turns?
And going back to Lupin Ranger versus Patch Ranger for a moment, the Ganglers are sort of a differentiation from that. I mean, they're all one intergalactic crime they're one intergalactic crime organization.
The Space Mafia.
Basically. I don't want to go too deep into this because we'll leave Lupin Ranger for another episode. But basically, the story is the main baddie of the Ganglers, I can't remember his name right now, is looking for a successor. So he basically announces this at a big dinner party.
The main villain's name is Dog Ran Ino Yaboom.
All right. So him, he's looking for a successor. And he announces this at a big dinner party event. So obviously that makes all the underlings crazy and saying, "Oh, I'm going to be the new successor. No, I will." Blah 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 blah, and that sets off the motivations for all the main villains of the series, and one of the right hand men to uh, what's his face?
Jap- Japanese name.
Yeah, um, Ga- Gostra, I think is her name.
Then I don't even remember it. The Lupin villain guy.
Yeah, Gostra, I think is her name. She's the one that makes the villains grow after they've been killed the first time. She basically uses her looping collection piece to put this green goo over the safe that the villain was carrying, and it grows from that.
As someone who's done a lot of research on internet fetish subcultures, this sounds very dirty out of context.
Yeah, it does. But that's look it up. That's how it happens. And in Lupin Ranger, as I said before, they're all after this Lupin collection, including the Ganglers. That's where they get their power from. They've stolen these Lupin collection pieces, and each one gives a certain baddie a certain power. Like the recent episode I watched gave the villain super speed, so he was impossible to catch.
I remember there's the Gold and Silver Ranger. Are they on like is there like are they their own faction or are they on like
I don't know.
or is
I'm
it
only
one?
on episode like 10 or 11. But anyway, it's as I said before, just quickly glazing over it. Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger is a pretty good series. The theme sucks to me, but the series itself is pretty good. But anyway, back to Hexagon. The conflict. The central conflict of the season was to be the rivalry between the Beetle Power Rangers and the basic 3 Hexagon Rangers. The mental image of 6 Rangers divided in half by a line with an explicit "which side are you on" drove much of the idea of the season. As Amit noted, this was years before Marvel's Civil War.
So Marvel stole the idea.
So basically, they were thinking of Lupin Ranger before Lupin Ranger. And from what Lupin Ranger turned out to be, I can definitely see, as we alluded to before, a Lupin Ranger versus Pat Ranger coming to the States as an actual hexagon become real, which would be really nice to see.
Well, by then I feel like they would make it like SPD. Like I feel like Hexagon is what inspired what like Hexagon would be like an early like in the universe. I would say Lightspeed evolves into Hexagon. Hexagon evolves into SPD. SPD evolves into Time Force.
Yeah, that would make sense. So let's see how long we've been going. As it does, 48 minutes. All right. So concluding thoughts on Hexagon. What?
It should have happened, but we got if Disney didn't purchase Power Rangers, this would have happened. But supposedly allowed towards the final episode of that was Saban was going to cancel the franchise, so I don't even know if this would have happened if Disney didn't buy it.
Yeah, so Disney pretty much saved Power Rangers, but then they ended up almost ruining it themselves.
And then
So,
and apparently because Power Rangers was in such a low state, like around, remember when they RPM was the last season they produced, and because they had to legally still produce merchandise, they just re-aired Mighty Morphin for a year.
yeah.
It was like because Power Rangers was like a dead franchise, Saban himself was the only one willing to buy it when the brand got up for sale.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, when I was in my hiatus stage with Power Rangers, I stopped watching around Jungle Fury.
I stopped watching around Overdrive, so you lasted a year longer than me.
Yeah, I started watching around Jungle Fury. I watched a few episodes of Jungle Fury, and then I thought I was too old for it, and then I saw images of Megaforce in
Okay,
Japan. In Japan, no, like Gosager,
Pager.
which is another good, really good Sentai series. I honestly think that Gokaiger really topped it, and so did
Oh,
Go
yeah.
Busters, and pretty much everything after it topped Ghost Sager. But Ghost Sager is a really good series, and again, America really effed it up with Megaforce. But Ghost Sager is really really good. But anyway, as for Hexagon, it could have been something great. It could still be something great if they went back to the drawing board.
And we'll never get Hexagon with the Hurricaneer costumes, but we could always get Hexagon with the Lupin costumes or Q Ranger costumes, because Q Ranger is another example that this could work with.
Oh, definitely. If hell, I feel like they could even bring it back for the Ryu Soldier season if they did
I,
it right.
I think this could work with literally any season, because this doesn't really like there's no real like theme to what the costumes would look like. So you could have the dinosaur costumes, you could have car costumes. It could be the power source could come from anything.
Yeah, but it's really not likely that Hexagon is ever going to come back, which is unfortunate because it was a really good idea.
Yeah, it it was a good idea, but we got what we got, and if we had Hexagon, we probably wouldn't have Dino Thunder because Dino Thunder completely retcons everything they planned.
Yeah. And we ended up getting Ninja Storm, which is one of the better Disney era seasons.
Rest in peace, Red Ranger.
Yeah, what's his name? Pua?
I think he's like is he Middle Eastern or Indian?
I think I think he's Hawaiian or something.
That makes sense. Like yeah, so he has like a more like foreign, hard to pronounce name.
I think his name is Pua or something. Uh, let me look that up real quick. Power Rangers season 20 Ninja Storm. There we are. Yeah, his name is Pua Magasiva.
Okay, I knew it started with a P. That's all I remembered.
Ninja Storm was one of the best Disney era seasons, if not the best Disney era season, and it had you. Lightspeed will always be my favorite theme song, but Ninja Storm is a close second.
My favorite theme song is either Lightspeed or Lost Galaxy, and my ringtone is actually the instrumental Lightspeed intro.
good job, good boy. Um, but Ninja Storm is a close second for me. I loved the Ninja Storm when I was growing up. Uh, Besides Carter, I think Shane is a really good Red Ranger.
My favorite, Cam, the Green Ranger from that season, he's probably my favorite of the Ninja Storm Rangers. That's the one I would probably cosplay eventually.
Yeah, Cam is an interesting character. I really liked him.
And that's a character I don't think we would have gotten if we got Hexagon, because that was going to be Tommy.
Pretty much. Yeah, so what Hexagon...
If I remember correctly...
The ideas from Hexagon ended up being used in Forever Red and and Wild Force. So we got some parts of it, but the full idea obviously never got realized and got replaced by Ninja Storm and Dino Thunder and everything that came after it.
Didn't in Japan? Didn't he not really see his true helmetless face? Then they whenever he takes his helmet off, it's like a different actor.
Yeah, I never finished Hurricaneger, but I know that the Samurai Ranger, as it's called, he's like a legendary figure in the show's universe, I'm pretty sure. And basically I don't think he has a face under the mask. He's just like a golem or something. I could be completely wrong.
That's some type of supernatural being who manifests himself as like a Green Ranger.
Yeah, something like that. In fact, I will again look this up. Nimpu Sentai Shurikenger. Doesn't really say much about what the Shurikenger is. So
I still think the Ninja Steel helmets are based off of him. The Ninja helmets.
Yeah, it's possibilities. It's a possibility.
Because they did bring him back for an episode of Ninja.
Oh yeah, and that was actually I finished Ninja, and that was a really good episode.
That's the season where you really do not want to mispronounce the title of, if you know what I mean.
Yes. Shuriken Sentai Ninja. That's another series with a really good theme song. It's kind of catchy.
We could do a top list of Sentai intros.
Yeah, that'll have to be another episode. So, my concluding thoughts on Hexagon: it would have been great to see that the idea realized. I mean, Tommy being the leader of a Power Ranger organization, you can't go wrong.
Next time I see Ryan Parrott or Kyle Higgins at a convention, they're like the guys from the Boom Studio comic, I might actually bring up say, hey, have you ever thought of Hexagon?
You really should, because the idea is
I have
underused.
So anyway, check that on Instagram and for Ranger X. I do 3D modeling and prop building and that stuff.
Yeah, and you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, And obviously, you can find this podcast on YouTube. We're looking to getting onto various podcast services, but using Anchor. So look forward to that. My name is Trevor. This is Anthro Ranger X. Have a good one.
It's morphing time.